Begin with breaking news at 5 o'clock. The verdict is in for a high-profile Valley murder case.
A man facing possible life behind bars for killing his aunt 5 years ago when he was only 14. True crime correspondent Brianna Whitney is live. It didn't take long for that jury to come back. Brianna, was this a surprise?
You know, they didn't deliberate for very long. It was interesting, though, because Ares Adle was on trial for first-degree murder. The verdict was second-degree murder. So this is kind of how this all went down. The jury was presented with three different options. First-degree murder, which Ares was on trial for. Second-degree murder, which they convicted him of, or manslaughter. They went with that in-between option, which for the defense, they consider that a win because this wasn't a whodunit case. Ares Adle had confessed to this crime. I want to show you some video that was in court today after the verdict was read. We watched as Ares Adle was taken into custody and put in handcuffs at the end of the hearing. He had been out on bond for several years, so this will be the first time in years he'll be incarcerated again. The crime happened back in February of 2019 during a family reunion at their Sun Lakes home. Ares cut phone lines, hid cell phones, then went downstairs where his Aunt Tanya was sleeping and stabbed her to death. Her last words before she died, "I think it was Ares." Mental health was not admissible in this trial, so his defense team was left fighting for a lesser conviction than first-degree murder, claiming the state could never prove motive, and Ares felt threatened by comments his aunt had made toward him that night. Well, right after the verdict, we spoke to both sides. Tanya Harper's son, Amon, sharing words about the conviction. Though his family was hoping for first degree, they still find justice in this outcome.
She didn't even get to see her youngest graduate. So just there's a lot of stuff that was stripped away from her because of someone's actions, and it's just a breath of fresh air knowing that that person is finally not out just sitting and laying in regular beds and kind of he's where he needs to be right now, and I'm just glad that it's finally over.
Now, we also spoke to Ares's mom and stepdad about their son's conviction. She said before the verdict, the jury actually came back with a question asking if Ares had had a mental health evaluation.
So based upon his testimony, they knew something was missing. So I believe that is the reason why they came back with this verdict. And I'm ecstatic because either way we go, they can't. There's nothing but, up for us.
Now, the sentencing was set for December 5th, so everybody will be back here in just over a month. But this is a huge difference. When we're talking about first-degree murder conviction and a second-degree murder conviction, Ares was looking at potentially life in prison if he was convicted of first-degree murder. Now, with second-degree, the maximum time in prison is 25 years. The minimum time is 10 years. So when you're talking about possibly in prison for 10 years versus life, his family really considers this a win, as they know that Ares will get out of prison in some time. They are still working on some appeals, though, and we'll learn more about those in the coming months. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
Brianna, the verdict had to split this family apart because you had spoke with his mom before in depth, and she said that, in fact, he did have a serious mental health diagnosis. Is there a reason why that wasn't allowed in this trial and that they're appealing for?
You know, it's really interesting what is ruled admissible and not admissible when it comes to a trial. Ares's mom told me that he was diagnosed with a form of schizophrenia that's a level up than just the typical schizophrenia diagnosis. So his family believes that he did not understand his actions that night, that he was not in a sane frame of mind. But there was some sort of filing disagreement with when it was tried to filed a guilty except insane type of trial that was not filed in the time frame that it would have needed to be in order to move forward with that. There's also a lot of red tape behind the scenes when it comes to something like that. So that was part of it, but also the state was fighting for that to not be admissible. Obviously for them, they were looking at a first degree and anything mental health would have changed. But you can tell from the jury's question before the verdict that they did feel they wanted to learn more about that. And that's why they asked that question. So I'm interested to hear what family may say during the sentencing and also what may come of these appeals, because when it comes to the appeals, there might be a different kind of procedure when it comes to admitting mental health or anything like that.
Yeah, it was definitely on their minds as they delivered that swift verdict in this case today. Brianna Whitney live at the courthouse. Thanks, Brianna.